I have a question.
There's something wrong with your computer. It's
yeah, I'll just,
uh,
sorry about that. When you're in the world and you're challenged by some situation, anxiety or stress or whatever, do you right away start breathing, like circulating the breath, or do you focus on Rudy, or what do you do to pull yourself out of that mindset?
you know what I do now? Look, this is after years of working on myself. When things are challenging, and lately they've been very challenging, what's been going on? You know, I have kind of a not a gratitude for the difficulties people are going through, but I don't look at it as a negative situation. I don't look at it as something that intimidates me, threatens me. I look at it as simply an opportunity to go deeper inside myself and to grow. And approaching things that way, first of all, you don't waste all of that energy that's wasted when you get upset. The fighting, the yelling, the knowing that, all this stuff that goes on that just drains your energy out of you. And secondly, it teaches you that you can get bigger than these kinds of situations. And I think that this is really important. And honestly, life will always present us with situations like that. It does it because life itself is in service of a higher energy. And we need to learn how to get stronger inside ourselves, develop more depth, tap deeper energies. And the only way you can do it is by, and usually a good kick in the ass reminds us that we have to do that. So it's not a negative situation. It's a very positive situation. As I say, I don't think if people are going through a lot of suffering, and that's positive, for them. But what do I learn in those situations? How do I grow because of these situations? How do I go deeper? How can I love these people unconditionally, even if they're doing 50 things that are absolutely adverse to what I believe life should be? All of that is part of becoming human and part of really becoming a child of God and opening to higher energy and ultimately attaining a state of enlightenment.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. And I know this is not easy, and I'm talking from, a lot of years of doing this type of inner work. But it takes time. It takes time to simply learn how to, first of all, to deal with ourselves, to deal with our own breed of, craziness that goes on inside every human being, how to master that, how to not allow that to upset us, how to keep from being depressed, unhappy, insecure, et cetera, et cetera. That requires incredible foundation, incredible openness of the heart, quieting of the mind, knowing how to do that, and being reminded by every situation we encounter during the day that is difficult like that. I got to work deeper in the next meditation class when I sit down and work on myself. But if there's a lot of tension in people around you, I don't suggest doing the double breathing exercise. Just try to get as quiet and as centered as you can get, and try to keep your attention in the moment and allow yourself to respond to what you're being given, and to try to do it with openness and and not ready to get involved in a war with somebody else. A lot of times it's best to just keep one's mouth shut. I mean that, shut up, let them, I mean, look, how many times have I told this story? It's a great story, but it's worth telling because it's really something that happened to me. Where, when I was up in Big Indian and I asked Rudy if I can go up there and spend 3 or 4 days and just relax, because it was a really hard winter and I was very tired. And he said, that's what it's for, go up. And I went up to Big Indian, and please, those of you who have heard this story 1,000 times, accept my apologies. But I went up to Big Indian, and I went, got a room in the house there, and unpacked all my stuff, and I said, well, you can't just lie around here all day and look at the grass growing. I said, find something to do. So I looked out of the window of the room I was staying in, and there was about an acre of land that was a big field. It was like a lawn. And the grass was almost as tall as I was, and there was a tractor there with a kind of thing that you could cut grass. And I said, well, there's something to do. I can contribute something to the ashram. And so I went down, I got on the tractor and I start driving. And I'm cutting the grass. I'm having a jolly good time. All my tension's going into the grass that's being cut. And suddenly, out of nowhere, the guy who was the manager of the ashram comes running across the ashram, screaming at me at the top of his lungs. And by the time he got to me, I discovered I had done at least 50 things wrong in the first half hour. And I got off the tractor, I stopped the tractor, I got off the tractor. And he was a friend of mine, this guy, I mean, I knew him, and we're like nose to nose, and he's going on. And I said, Stuart, you can't do anything but keep your mouth shut and listen to him. Listen to him. I could see the pain inside this man, and his tension was being let out on me. And he was a friend of mine. I said, what am I going to do? Get into a fist fight with him? So I just kept my mouth shut. I listened to him for about 10 minutes. He went on. And as long as I live, I'll never forget it. When he got finished and he totally exhausted himself and all the tension was gone, started crying, put his arms around my neck and said, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. I mean, that to me was such a major lesson in how to deal with people when they're crazy. Keep your mouth shut. Listen to them. Let them blow their energy. They will. They'll exhaust themselves, and you keep your mouth shut. You listen. And I never forgot that. And I haven't really seen that person. God knows, it must be 30 years. But I'll never forget it. And all it came down to was being strong enough to keep my mouth shut and listen to him. Just wanted to be listened to, the guy. When I'm telling you, I'll never forget, he started crying. Gave me a big hug and he said, thank you. Thank you. So one can spare themselves a lot of aggravation by just learning to keep their mouth shut and not have to fight with somebody because they're a little crazy and they, you did this, you did that, all right, they, eventually they just exhaust themselves, And that happened to me so many times where I had to deal with people like that and just stayed quiet. I didn't feed their insanity. I mean, there's another story I've told a million times, but I'll tell it again. It's a great story. I mean, I used to work when I was first started studying with, when I was in my early 20s, the only place I used to work was in bars and restaurants. And because I could always get a job, and I never really wanted to work, but I always could get a job in those places when I was running out of money. So I got a job in a restaurant, and this is a time when I was studying with Rudy. And there was a bartender in the restaurant. I'll never forget that guy. He and I mean, it was like chalk on a blackboard. I could not go and ask him for a martini without getting into a fight with this guy. And it was crazy, I mean, it made working very difficult. So one day I'm standing at the bar, and he's talking to another waiter about going out and meeting his girlfriend at midnight and having a midnight breakfast with her. And he couldn't wait to do it. And I'm standing at the bar and I'm listening to this guy who actually had a girlfriend. And I thought, this woman must be a saint. She's certainly more highly evolved than me. She could, sleep in the same bed as this guy, And something in me changed. I began to see things in him that I didn't see before. And, from that point on, I never had an argument with him again. I never met that woman, but God bless her. She taught me a very major lesson. How, I was stupid. It wasn't him, it was me. I didn't go deep enough in myself to find a place where I saw that human being as a human being, not as somebody who was, an enemy, or, I didn't like, and it changed me. It really changed me. It created a whole new way of looking at people for me. And then, after that, we would have conversations, we would talk to each other. It was great. It made working a lot better for me. And I realized it wasn't him, it was me. Does anyone else have a question? I mean, I have a million stories like that, but those two always come up. They're such good stories. They always come up. Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? I just have, I made the announcement yesterday that Eva is going to have an operation tomorrow. It's a very serious operation. I've been doing healing work with her. Yesterday, she came to my apartment. Today, I did it online with her. And please try and take her into your heart. Try to really send a lot of blessings and love to her and support her, because this is a serious operation. This is not just, a simple operation. So if we can all do that, it'll help her get through this, And also Bob Sink on February 6th is going to have an operation. And I think we should all do the same thing. Send love, send openness, open heart, try to support him and her in their situations. I mean, look, every one of us, we get older, things happen, the body doesn't hold up, it creates problems, and it's wonderful to have people supporting other people. So please, tomorrow, just try to feel Eva in your heart. Maybe many of you might not even know who she is. It doesn't matter. Just open your heart and send it to the NYU hospital here in New York, or New York City, where she's having the operation.
And Stuart, my surgery got scheduled this morning to February 8th for my back surgery. So I now have a date, and I'm really glad to finally have a date for my surgery. Just wanted to let you all know.
Okay. So an absolutely amazing period with people getting sick and hurt, and people passing on. I mean, I even opened the media and I'm reading about it. A guy who was an old friend of mine, a client of mine in my gallery, who was an actor, a British actor. And my gallery was one of his stops every time he came to New York. We'd have long conversations. It was a wonderful guy. I used to really like him. Got lost hiking in the mountains in California. I'm sure you all read about this. It's been all over the news. I'm saying, oh my God. It's been 2 or 3 weeks now that nobody's found him. I mean, this is January. It's been an amazing month of things that whoever dreamed would take place. And I know it's made me much stronger having to go through this with so many different people. Does anyone else have a question?
Stuart, this is Emma. I have a question. Could you speak about preservation and change?
Preservation.
And change.
Well, look, let me see if I can bring these two. Look, we have to sustain our meditation practice, preserve it. It's sacred. And the power of the meditation practice that we sustain and we preserve in doing the work every day, it creates change. It gives us stability inside ourselves so that when cycles come to an end and we have to go through major changes, and God knows the changes that have happened to people just this month, we have the stability inside ourselves to be able to deal with. We have the foundation, the rootedness, the strength inside to be able to deal with these cycles as they evolve and they change. And every human being goes through cycles, just as nature goes through cycles, and in order for us to deal with these changes that take place, we need to preserve that strength. We need to conserve that inner strength. We need to build that inner strength by doing some kind of, whether it's what I teach or something else, which enables us to build a system inside, which will allow us to go through the changes without the changes, being like some earthquake or a tornado that rips us completely apart. So the two of these things really work together. Conserving your inner life. With the question that Isa asked, if you get into a situation with somebody, you could, within 10 minutes, blow your entire spiritual life, screaming at them. But learning how to be centered, to be balanced, conserving energy, preserving the things that work for you, preservation of the things that work for you, that help you to grow and help you to develop. All kinds of things work that way. Look, relationships can be very difficult, but in the difficulty and in the sustaining of them and what you learn from them, they are major teachers about how one can truly get to God. Family is another thing like that. Family is rather difficult, having children. Everybody wants children, and they have children, and they go, what did I do? what happened here? But loving them unconditionally and conserving the energy and preserving all the techniques and meditation practices that help you to conserve that energy allows these cycles to take place and change without blowing one's connection with God, with higher energy in the universe. So it's a good question, because this is really essential. And then we learn patience. We learn that it takes time to build the kind of system that I'm talking about. It doesn't happen in a minute, an hour, it takes time. It's like I always say, it's like climb Mount Fuji, oh snail. You know, it's a Japanese Zen saying, but slowly, slowly. I mean, one of my tantric things I've been writing online, I hope you all are reading those things, you know. I don't know, it hasn't been published yet, but one of the things I say is the fastest path to spiritual light enlightenment is the slow development of a chakra system. You know?
That's great.
Does anyone else have a question? Claudia, thank you. You really sat through this class. Your eyes are bright. You got a lot of energy. So God bless you. You see, you can do it. Thank you, dear. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? Okay, then there'll be meditation on Wednesday. One other thing, you know, once a month I send out my my begging bowl. We sent out a notice for people to make contributions, and you know, I want to thank a lot of you have made contributions and continue to make. You know, it enables these classes to sustain themselves because I don't have to go out and drive an Uber or a taxi, you know, in order to get up in the morning, you know, and it enables me to focus on this. And gets the rent, helps me get the rent paid and the, you know, utilities and food and all kinds of stuff. So God bless you. And I want to thank you all. You know, don't think I'm not appreciative when I get your donations. I really am. You know, and so thank you. And God bless you all for helping to support this situation. And the situation is helping all of us to grow, you know. So bless you. Thank you. And again, as I say every time, you know, I learned so much because of these Zoom classes. You all are my teacher in a very deep and a profound way. You all are demanding of me to work in a kind of depth that I have to work on in my life. So bless you and thank you. And there'll be a class on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.